All right, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, July 13th, 2021. My name is Rosemary Matrasi Di Domenico Manning. Wow, all those last names in there. But I'm known to my family, especially my grandchildren, as Grandma Roro. This past May, I celebrated my 84th birthday, and I am so happy to be here today with doing this video with my two grandsons. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I hope you will all enjoy it. And right now, I want to introduce you to my grandson, Christian Graham, who will be 23 years old in November and who just graduated with his master's degree in education. And we are also very proud of him. And my grandson Dalton will be coming into the video very soon, and he's going to be 28 the end of this month, and I am so proud of him and everything that he is doing and accomplishing in his life. But anyway, shall we get started with what we're going to do this afternoon?
Well, thank you, Grandma. And I'm very excited today as well. In university, I majored in history, and so something that's always been really close to my heart is the deep, rich background of our family and our cultural history. And so I've been thinking a lot about my grandparents lately, and as my life kind of begins to take off and I'm kind of going off and doing my own thing in life, I wanted to take time with my cousin to record some of the stories and memories that our grandparents have shared with us as we've grown up with them. And so all of these amazing stories and incredible people that have been a part of our family have all of these memories. So today what we're going to do is try to record a few of them from our very own Grandma Roro. So if you don't mind us getting started, I'm going to introduce my cousin, Dalton Rios, who's also going to be sitting in with us today. He knows Grandma Roro very well, and he's going to be helping me ask you a couple of questions about some of your experiences.
Great.
So are you ready to go, Grandma?
Oh, yes.
Awesome. Well, you've stated your name, so I want to start off with where and when were you born?
I was born in Rome, New York.
New York.
Which is situated right in the center part of the state. And small town. I think the population was around 50,000.
Wow. And when were you born?
Well, let's see. I guess that would be 1937. I was just 84 years old.
1937.
And I can't believe it.
So you grew up in Rome, New York.
Yes. And I had a really wonderful childhood. My mother was one of 4 sisters, and she had 5 brothers.
Yeah.
So I had all these aunt and uncles, and my grandmother and grandfather were just so wonderful. The thing that disturbs me is that my grandparents did not speak English, and I remember my mother being very angry with me when I was in high school that I took French, and they did offer Italian, and you cannot believe how sorry I am now, but I took French instead of Italian. But it was interesting because when I married Al Di Domenico, he spoke Italian, so he could communicate with my grandparents, and I couldn't.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, that's something else. I know. But it was so much fun. I remember going to the 9 o'clock Mass every Sunday and going to my grandparents' house, and there would be my grandmother frying meatballs. And I mean, she had many grandchildren. I mean, we had to be at least 8 or 9 grandchildren at that time that all went to her house. And the 9 o'clock Mass was the children's Mass, okay? So we all went to that Mass. And as soon as we walked in the door, she'd grab that fork and pierce that meatball and hand it to us. And oh my God, you think my meatballs are good or your mother's are good?
So they were all your cousins then?
They were all my cousins. And can you imagine Christmas time?
No,
My-
tell us.
Yeah, I know. With all those aunts and uncles, and we'd all gather at my grandparents' house on Christmas Eve, and the Italians have the custom of having 7 different fish on Christmas Eve, and I can
Wow.
still see my grandmother standing over that stove making an omelet of smelt fish. They're tiny fish in that big black frying pan.
Yeah.
And to see her lift that frying pan and flip it on a dish and flip it back, I used to stand there just in awe and watch that. But they were very, very happy times. All those gifts on Christmas Eve, and then of course Christmas morning, Santa Claus had come, so it was even
Yeah.
more gifts. Very loving family, very loving family. Aunts and uncles always doing things for us, treating us, doing things like that.
So did you live close to your family?
Oh yeah, it was less than a half a mile away. Yeah.
Everybody-
Well, the town was very close, so we didn't live too far away from each other. A lot of fun times, definitely.
What do you remember about your cousins? Were they, well, first of all, were they around the same age as you, or?
Yeah. Well, my sister Marie and Carmel, they were just a little older, but a lot of them were my age, and then some younger.
Mhm.
And then of course, the family kept growing. It's very interesting because I celebrated my 80th birthday 4 years ago, and I am so grateful that I had that wonderful birthday party. And I wrote and called to all my family, all my cousins, and said, you come to this birthday celebration, we'll make it a family reunion, and when I pass away and go home to the Lord, you don't even have to worry about coming for any funeral. I'd rather have you here where we can all be together and
Eat Italian
eat and
food.
drink and
Yeah.
have a good time. And it came to pass. That's what happened. And I had cousins who were meeting each other for the very first time. Second cousins, actually.
Mhm.
And so now they're all communicating with each other and, FaceTiming and
That's cool.
Instagram and Facebook is what I want to say too.
Yeah.
So that turned out to be very well. So thank God we are keeping in close touch.
Do you have a favorite aunt or uncle?
Do I have a favorite aunt or uncle? I had my mother's sister, Aunt Isabel, probably was my favorite because she married very late in life, and so she used to take me bowling with her, and she'd take me to the movies, and I remember washing her car for her, and she would take me out to a restaurant for frog legs,
Oh yeah.
which was like
Yum.
southern fried chicken, which was delicious. And yeah, so probably she was my favorite aunt. I had a thought and I lost it, but it'll probably come back.
Yeah.
So who grew
That's
up?
what happens at age 84.
So who grew up in your immediate household?
Well, my 2 sisters and myself. I can remember World War II. I remember when sirens went off. We lived up in an apartment and we had to pull the shades down so
Really?
no lights would show. And we had to take those precautions. And my mother had 3 brothers who were serving in the service.
Mhm.
And my one uncle, Anthony, was 16 years old and he lied and he joined the Marines. And he was one of the veterans that landed on Iwo Jima. Oh man, he was such a tough guy, but so full of love and so full of so much heart. And then we moved to another house, and then my brother was born. I was 9 years old when my brother was born, and I was like his second mother. I just took care of him all the time, and we were very close all the time. So that was pretty much our immediate family.
So what did your parents do when you were young? Do you remember what kind of work
Well,
they did?
yeah, my father was a tile contractor. He put up ceramic tile bathrooms and kitchens. As a matter of fact, he put up the tile bathrooms in Cornell University.
Wow.
New York State, right? And my mother used to work part-time in a department store. And so we were always dressed very, very well, because whenever anything went on sale, they'd tell her to go in and pick out what she wanted before the customers came in. So she always got the first pick. And
What department store was it?
Nelson's. Oh my God, I can't believe I remember their name. Isn't that something? Yeah, I don't think it's not there any longer. And so that's pretty much what she did. Yeah. But I was a girl. I was a little brownie. I was a Girl Scout. Dalton was just saying this morning, he thought I was pretty well prepared with a lot of things that I do. And
Yeah.
he says, "Were you a Girl Scout?" And I, yep. That's where I learned that
Be
from.
prepared. Always
Yeah.
prepared, or whatever. it is.
Always prepared.
Always prepared.
Right. Try to do that. So anyway, what else would you like to know?
So besides being a Girl Scout, what other interests did you have when you were young? Did you have any dream jobs in mind? Did you have any interests that you like to pursue?
Not really, but I loved to play sports. I participated in sports. In high school, I participated in all the sports.
Which one was your favorite?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was never taller than 5 feet. And in those days, when you played basketball, you played half court. The forwards were on one side of the court, and the guards of your team were on the other side. And I can remember I was very good at basketball. I could shoot those freestyle, what do you call them? The free shots?
Free throws.
The free throws like you could not believe. And some of these tall girls would come and stand next to me. They would be guarding me, right? And they would look down at me. And I can remember, if they were standing with their legs apart, I remember dribbling through the legs of this one tall girl and shooting a basket and making it, right? So, and then I loved tennis, played tennis and softball. And I don't think we had soccer. I don't remember soccer in those days. But, yeah, I did like sports. And I loved to dance. Well, I loved to dance from a very early age.
Yeah.
And those are genes that are in my daughter Renee, Dalton's mother, absolutely loved to dance. She gave me quite some times when she was a teenager and in her 20s driving to LA at the clubs to dance.
Yep.
And then Dalton took right after her because he loves to dance.
It's true.
And my son, Fred, only took ballroom dancing lessons because he figured it's a good way to get good dates with girls, because most women love to dance, so that was why he became a good dancer. He went and took some ballroom dancing lessons. Oh my God.
That's right.
Giving away all the secrets here, huh?
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
What do you remember about Girl Scouts? Was there some fun adventure you went on?
Nano used to send me to Girl Scout camp in the summer, and we had to sleep in a cabin in bunks, and I kind of worried about that. I was always afraid of bugs and snakes, but it was a lot of fun. And I remember one year she sent my sister Carm, and Carm did not like the food, and they told her she couldn't leave the dining room until she finished her breakfast, and she was still there after supper that night. She wouldn't eat anything. They had to go and take her and bring her home.
That's funny.
I know, she wasn't very flexible when it came to food.
Well, it probably wasn't Italian food, huh?
Well, yeah, obviously. Obviously, right?
Yeah, she's.
Well, that's the other wonderful thing about our culture. You know, I can remember Al, your grandfather, going to school with a lunch, and they sent a note home to Grandma that she had to pack him some different kind of lunch because they thought, you know, he had these big hoagie sandwiches and pastries and all this other stuff. And then I had to laugh because my kids were complaining that kids were looking at their lunch at school when they were
Yeah.
eggplant sandwiches.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I can't help it if they don't know what good food is.
Yeah.
That's their problem in life, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. So anyway, let's see, what else would you like to know? High school was fun.
Food is a pretty central part of what we do as a family. I mean, all we've talked about since you've been here is the next meal.
Yeah.
So, on that subject, where did you learn your incredible cooking skills?
To tell you the truth, I really learned them from Grandpop's mother, Nancy DiDomenico. I think I knew when I married Pop that I knew how to make meatballs and I knew how to make a pot of sauce. But tell you the truth, I didn't know too much more than that. I can remember the first turkey that I baked was after we left Philadelphia, and we were living in Rhode Island. And I looked in the cavity to try to find the liver and the
neck and
gizzard
stuff,
and the
yeah.
neck and stuff, and it was empty. I went, oh my God, because I used to use some of that stuff for the dressing. And so anyway, I went ahead and baked the turkey, and when Pop started carving it,
Yeah.
all that stuff was still in the bag in the neck of the turkey. I never looked in the neck of the turkey. I looked in the cavity of it, right? So that was my first
funny.
experience, baking a turkey. But she was an incredible cook, and everything was fresh. And they had their own garden, and they had all their fruits and vegetables. And then her husband, Pop, was a pastry chef. A professional pastry chef in the Warwick Hotel in Philadelphia. And so not only did we have dessert for dinner at night, but there were pastries and desserts after breakfast, after lunch, after dinner. And so we all enjoyed that very much. Of course, you can't do it these days because you gain too much weight. But anyway, it was great while it lasted.
Yeah.
And she made her own tomato sauce, her own from the tomatoes in her garden. Oh, it was really wonderful.
Yeah.
You guys didn't get to meet them. They were great people, wonderful people. As a matter of fact, I have said many times that God broke the mold when he made Grandpa DiDomenico in Philadelphia. He was a saint. Absolute saint.
So would
Excuse
you
me.
go over to their house for meals and occasions, family occasions?
Oh my God, every Sunday. We were there every Sunday. And Lisa was born, and then I got my firstborn in 1960, in May of 1960. And then I seemed to have gotten pregnant again right away. And I went into labor with my son the following February. So she was not even a year old yet when I was having my son. And that turned out to be an emergency cesarean section. All I know is my mother-in-law and father-in-law took care of Lisa, but I couldn't get her back. Her grandmother didn't want to give her back to me. Had a very, very hard time, and I think she kept her for a good month after I had Fred. Of course, I had to recuperate from a section, also. But still, it was like I had to fight to get my daughter back. And they always had that very close relationship throughout the rest of their lives. Yeah, so they were good people. They were heartbroken when we moved to California. Absolutely heartbroken.
How did you decide on the name Lisa?
I think it was a pretty popular name at that time. Yeah. And then Fred, we couldn't agree on a name for him. And we said if we couldn't agree, then it would be Fred Jr., and that's what happened.
Do you remember the names that you were toying around with?
Well, I was thinking of Tommy after Al's brother. But my in-laws, my mother-in-law didn't want that. She thought that was a bad sign. And she was superstitious about that, so that was out. And I think I liked Albert. And whatever name I came up with, he didn't like. And whatever name he came up with, I didn't like. So my son ended up with that name.
Yeah.
And Renee, I'm not sure how I came about Renee. I don't know. I just like maybe
Wasn't
I
it
was.
an actress in a soap opera?
I forget.
An address in a soap
An
opera?
actress.
Oh, an actress in
You
a
were
soap
watching
opera.
a soap opera while you were pregnant.
Oh, is that how that happened?
and you really
Huh.
liked that name.
Yeah, but I couldn't think of a middle name to go with it, so she never did get a middle name.
That's right.
Oh, funny.
So we were both named after TV programs.
And you too?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
How
Oh,
funny
how
is
those
that?
How
Yeah,
genes.
exactly.
I know. Funny how the
That's
genes
right.
go, right?
Yeah.
Oh my word! I know. That is funny.
So you said something that I thought was really interesting. You said your mother-in-law, Pop-Pop's mother, Nancy, was superstitious. Were there any interesting, like, Italian superstitions that your parents believed in?
Oh.
Or that were kind of passed down? Or was it mainly Pop-Pop's family
Well,
that
they
was more
they
superstitious?
they knew about them, but I don't think they were superstitious. Like Nancy DiDomenico, it was like she did something, and I forgot what it's about. You should ask your father if he remembers. Passing Molokia.
Oh,
Over
yeah.
Do you,
The evil eye.
Yeah.
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 right, and if you know. But I forgot what the ritual was to get rid of that evil eye. Whether they put olive oil or holy oil from the church or something on you, made sign the cross. Or
On your
something.
forehead.
Yeah, or if you weren't feeling good. Oh yeah, always. If something was wrong with the kids, we'd have to go through that routine. Oh,
Do you remember the first time you experienced that?
No.
Like, or a
Well,
time where
I
you were
thought
like,
it
what
was.
is it?
I
This
thought
is-
it was ridiculous. You know. I didn't want that. I didn't want that done to my kids. But then, you know, of course, I was young, immature. But anyway, I kind of didn't believe in that stuff. But then I thought, okay, Rosemary, no big deal. She really believes in it, so let her do it. It
Yeah.
makes her feel better. So go ahead and do it.
That's funny.
Yeah. So anyway, isn't it funny? You were gonna ask me about, because I think it's pretty funny, the guys that I dated.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we know you married our grandfather, obviously,
Right.
since we're sitting here right now.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was,
But-
and he turned out not to be a funeral director, because I dated several.
So what
funeral
was your dating
directors.
life like?
Well, it was
Before
great, but I
Pop-Pop.
never liked to go steady, especially in high school, because I loved to dance so much. And I didn't want to be stuck dancing with the same guy all night. So if I did decide to have a boyfriend, which I did, we would dance with all different people for the first half of the school dance, and then they'd have an intermission, and then after intermission I would just dance with that one. Oh yeah, I was voted the best dancer of my class in high school.
Yeah.
So that was something that was pretty good, and yeah, that really. Right now, I can't dance too much unless I've had probably about 2 or 3 glasses of champagne,
Yeah.
and I'm not feeling any pain. Then I then I can dance a little bit more.
What do you remember going on your first date?
No.
What's the earliest date you could remember
What's the
going on?
date? Because in high school, oh my God, there was a bar we used to drive to out of town. I mean, we weren't 18. And what did I think I used to, but they used to serve minors.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because all the guys would be drinking beer, and I think I drank rum and coke.
Rum and Coke?
In
Wow.
Rum and coke in those days. But anyway, so we used to, hang out there on Friday nights, and
Do you remember the name of the bar?
no. No, I really don't. But those were, and of course we danced. They had a jukebox, and we danced to jukebox music.
Nice.
Yes, that was fun. And then we had our different seasons in high school with the sports.
Yeah.
And so I used to have fun with that because I used to date the captain of the football team. And then when it became basketball season, I date the captain of the basketball team. And then we went to baseball, softball, and then, I used to date that guy. So
Every year?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. But I never liked to have steady boyfriends. So I just like to go out with them all.
Yeah.
And that was fun. But the undertaking thing, that was something else.
Yeah,
I
you gotta
thought, oh
share
my
those
God,
stories.
especially
Yeah.
when I went back when I went into nurses training. I really worried. They used to say I would kill him and they would bury him.
So, who was the first undertaker that you dated?
Was it Luigi? Yeah, I think
Classic Italian name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Luigi Bottini, and then that didn't work out, and then I dated his brother, and then I dated his cousin. And then, oh no, he wasn't the first one. The first one was John Strong, who is still alive today. Good looking guy. Oh my God. So handsome. 6 feet tall. And, but he was Protestant. And so Grandma Marullo and my mother said, there's no way. You can't marry him. He's not Italian was the first thing. He's not Italian and he's not Catholic. And so in those days you kind of listened to that stuff, but
Do you remember how long you dated him for?
I think he was my boyfriend for over a year. Yeah,
That's a good
because
amount of time.
he was a great dancer.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he was a real good dancer.
Do
Yeah.
you remember why you stopped dating him?
Because my parents said I couldn't go out with him anymore.
Oh.
I mean, they didn't think that was a good idea. And believe it or not, we listened to that kind of thing in those days.
Did your parents ever meet him?
Oh, yes. Well, they knew everybody. Yeah. I was telling my family here the story of when I was working in an outpatient department. A homeless man came in, and he was not very clean and disheveled, and he, of course, we had orderlies in those days that, he gave a shower, but we had to, cut his nails and give him a haircut and take care of him and just do some other things with him. And I know that I felt very uncomfortable about that. And this one nun she's got to be a saint in heaven today. She was just so wonderful, Sister Ann Francis. She said, Rosemary, I know this is difficult, but she says what you have to remember is that when you take care of patients, and it may be something that's going to make you feel uncomfortable, what you need to believe, you need to look at them and see Jesus in them, because we're all images of Jesus Christ, and so I never forgot that. And that is the truth, no matter what they look like, no matter what they do. And of course, you guys are brought up in the Catholic religion, you've heard that before. But those days, and I did have fun when I was in nurses training. It was hard work. Oh, I know. The thing is that maybe it was going out with all those funeral directors, but it's very hard for me to be in the same room when someone has passed away. And there is a procedure that nurses have to do in the hospital when someone passes away before they're sent to a morgue. And I can remember Sister Mary Joanne, her name was, had to come with me because you had to be supervised to do these procedures to get passed on them. So somebody had passed away, and so they had this big package that you want to do the package. And anyway, you need safety pins, and there were no safety pins in the package. And so she says, well, I'll be right back. I'll go get some safety pins. And so I says, well, I'll go get them. She says, no, you stay here. You can get started. I said, no, I'll go get the safety pins because I didn't want to stay in the room. So finally I followed her out the door, and she asked me, what was wrong. And I was trying to explain that to her, that I just really had a bad feeling about that. And so anyway, she obviously gave me some kind of talk to. I prayed so hard after that experience every time I went on duty. And this is for the rest of my nursing career. Anytime I worked in the hospital, please, dear God, don't let anybody expire on my shift. And nobody ever did.
Wow.
Nobody ever did. I know. I mean, that is absolutely incredible when you think of it.
Yeah, it's pretty unheard of.
And then, just before we graduated, we worked alone on the night shift.
Yeah.
And there would be like 23 patients, 24, and I'd be the only nurse, and maybe have a nurse's aide. Well, one night I went to work, and the aide called in sick, so I was by myself. And I was also afraid of that. Nowadays, they keep all the lights on in the hallways. Back in those days, they did not.
Mm-hmm.
They just had a couple little floor lights on in the hallway, right? And so you had to go make rounds with a flashlight, check on everybody after you got a report. And so anyway, I have the flashlight in my hand, and I walk into this one room, and I screamed, here is this guy who's got to be over 6 feet tall, and he looks like Mr. Clean.
Yeah.
He has, his head is all shaven, and he had a hernia operation that day, and he had gotten himself out of bed. And I mean, here he had an IV going, and he was pushing the thing. He was trying to get to the bathroom, but the thing is, I walked in and see this big guy, and I screamed. He says, oh, I'm sorry, did I scare you? I thought, right, the nurse is supposed to get scared like that.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, but it was amazing. All those years that I worked in hospitals, nobody ever expired on my shift. So I never had to do that procedure again. God's been very good to me.
Well, when you were young, you were saying that Nano used to always take you to funerals too, right?
Well,
Tell us about
yeah.
that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to tell my family that when the Lord is ready to take me home to Him, I don't want a big funeral. I want to go in church, but I want it to be just family. In the first place, nobody would come. Gee, I hate to say it, but a lot of my friends are very sick and passing away. But anyway, Nano went to every funeral there was in Rome, New York. Sometimes I think she even wondered if she didn't know people. I mean, and I figured when she passed away, she'd have the biggest funeral. Well, she lived to be 98 and a half, so everybody had already passed away. Of course, she was living with me anyway, but she used to drag me to these wakes all the time. And in those days, Catholics could not be cremated. And so it was always somebody lying in a casket. And oh my God, when it was family members, we had to touch them and kiss them goodbye. Are you kidding me? I mean, no wonder I felt that way by the time I got into nurses training. That probably happened to me too in the first 5 to 7 years of my life, right?
Yep. Yep.
That I have those things that come back. Oh my God, that was awful. But anyway, yeah, that's probably why I did that. So then what happened?
So you were in nurses training, and then after you were done with nursing school, then you started to have kids?
I graduated in September of '58, and I had broken up with your grandfather. We had broken our engagement 2 times during those 3 years. And at the time I graduated, we were not together.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, he called me one night and congratulated me on graduating and said that he wanted to come and visit me. And so he ended up doing that in the fall. He came to Rome. And then next thing I know, I had that engagement ring back on my finger, and we planned to get married the following June.
Mm.
Yeah, which we did. And then we started having babies. Wow. A lot of them. And we moved around a lot. From Philadelphia, we went to Rhode Island. And that's where your mom was born.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's an interesting story. If Renee watches this, you were not due for 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
She was not due for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Was it 6 weeks? I forget if it was 6 weeks or 8 weeks now. But anyway, Nano and I flew there on a Friday, and I had an appointment with my new obstetrician for Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And Saturday, Pop-Up and I went out shopping for curtains for the house. This was our new house that we bought, this ranch-style house. And then that night I started having some pains, and so I figured they were Braxton Hicks, nothing. And then anyway, then Nano started getting nervous because I had had the problems with Fred.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess your father did too. So anyway, we called the doctor, and when I gave him my history over the phone, he says, "You better come in and let me check you." And sure enough, I was in labor with her. And so he examined me, and he said, "Well, it'll be a while." And then he left, and then all of a sudden I started getting pains, and I knew she was coming. And I called the nurse. She says, "No, the doctor was just, don't you tell me no. I am a registered nurse, and I am having this baby." She pulls the cover off of me, and she takes a look, and she says, "Oh my God." And she's hollering for them to call the doctor, and they're wheeling me on a stretcher. I never even made it to the delivery table with you. I had you on the stretcher. I had Renee on the stretcher.
Yeah.
So then she had to stay in the and then, of course, I had sent your grandfather home because I figured they couldn't be with you in those days, so I figured he didn't have to stay with me. He gets to the house, and Nano starts screaming, "What happened? What?" And he says, "No, nothing." "And you left her there by yourself? You get back there right now." So then he drives back to the hospital, and the phone rings, and Nano answers it. And it's the doctor saying that I had the baby. Is she okay? Right? And all that. Oh my God, the confusion was absolutely incredible. But she had to stay in the hospital for a few days because I think she weighed 5 pounds when she was born, but
Wow.
they lose weight and you can't bring them home till they're 5 pounds. So anyway, that was some time, but we weren't in Rhode Island that long, and now I can't even remember where we go from there.
Well, what,
I
so
think New Jersey.
before you go down that road, what, I would think it would be cool to ask you about your parents.
Okay.
Before we go down of you being a parent, I think it would be cool to preface that with what you
Oh.
remember and loved about your parents.
I didn't have any relationship with my father. I don't ever remember sitting down and even having a conversation with my father. My mother was the dominant, Nana was the dominant figure in the house. And
They took you to the movies
I,
once, though, right?
yeah, and I remember after I graduated from nursing school, I thought, you know, this is terrible. I've never done anything with my father, so I decided I wanted to, just he and I, we were going to go to the movies one night, and the movie was with Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe, and who's the other one?
Some Like It Hot.
Some Like It Hot. I
Yeah.
took him to see Some Like It Hot. And so that was great. But he was always working. He'd come home and he'd have dinner. I don't know. We just never, like I said, Nana was the domineering person in the family.
Do you know why Nano and Pappy, how they met, or why they wanted to be
Well,
together?
that was very interesting because I never heard that story until Lisa got married.
Really?
And Nano came for your wedding, and I was taking her to the airport, and we started talking, and all of a sudden I was asking her about her wedding, and she says, well, I said, well, did you have a wedding? I said, you know, I don't remember seeing any pictures. She says, no, we got married in the rectory, and I said, in the church rectory? She said, yeah, and I went, well, my God, were Grandma and Grandpa there? She said, no. And then I said, well, how did you tell Grandma and Grandpa? She says, well, right after we got married, we drove to Schenectady and we sent them a telegram. And her sister Isabel opened up the telegram and read it and fainted. That's how her mother and father found out she got married.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why did you do that? And she says, well, I knew they couldn't afford to have a wedding, and I didn't want to give them that expense, and we just figured it would be easier that way. And I thought, I had dated this one guy, Luigi Bottini, who was a funeral director, but he was already engaged to another girl, but he kept telling me he didn't want to marry this other girl. And he wanted me to elope with him. And I thought, Nana will kill me. And I thought, maybe it's a good thing I didn't know. If I'd known that she had eloped when she got married, maybe I would have done it. I don't know.
You should tell that story.
I know. Well, that was something else. Nah. That was just, it's a good thing I did not end up marrying him because he didn't turn out to be that great of a husband. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, John Strong was the one that's been the good husband. The one that was not Italian and not Catholic. He's the one that would have made a great husband back in Rome, New York. I know. As a matter of fact, when we brought Nano's ashes back, he came to the cemetery to see me
Oh, cute.
that day at that ceremony. And, of course, Luigi was there because his funeral home was handling it. And he came up to me after John left and criticized. He says, you notice the makeup he's wearing? He was always jealous of John.
That's right.
Oh, my God, that was so funny. I said, no, I just thought he looked exceptionally handsome. That's what I told him. Rub it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, I know.
So, okay, so how about Nana? What is your first memory that you have of Nano?
putting yams in the oven for us and baking them and pulling them out and smothering them in butter.
Yeah.
And I can remember being in that apartment in World War II,
Mm-hmm.
in the 40s, so I wasn't even 5 or 6 years old yet.
How?
And she was always doing things for people. I mean, the lady that lived downstairs, always complained about, she was Italian, about being sick. And she used to spend most of her time in bed, so Nano used to cook things for her and for her husband, and she always did a lot of baking, and she was always giving that kind of stuff to people. Very kind-hearted. As a matter of fact, this old lady that was downstairs, her daughter came to the cemetery when we brought Nano's ashes back, and she was the only living friend left that really knew Nano, and she brought up the fact, and she talked at the cemetery about the fact how kind my mother always was all those years to her mother. So I'm sure Nano was remembered by a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
but whatever. Well, I can remember her chasing me around the kitchen table with a broom.
What'd you do?
Because, I don't know, I must have done something wrong. But you know what, I was a very good girl. I mean, if she gave me a time limit, I had to be home. You know, I was home at that time limit. If she asked that I had to do things, I did them. So, I was not a risk taker. Definitely not a risk taker with disobeying my mother.
Mm-hmm.
What about your
Or my
siblings?
father.
Did she ever have to discipline your siblings?
I don't think so. I really don't. We all pretty much were pretty good. Marie was always a very hard worker. And she was very disappointed when Marie got married, because she was only 18 years old when she got married, and you know, her husband had polio, and he walked with a limp, and but he was known in town also to be a gambler, and so anyway, you know, that's what happened there. But then my sister then Marie moved to California, and then my sister Carm moved to Virginia, and we lost touch a lot, Carm, and it wasn't, you know, until later she found her way back to the Lord, and we got very close, especially when they came to visit Nano, because Carm would come and stay for a month, and Marie did too, when I was working full-time and Nano came to live with me. I'd come home from work, and Carm would immediately go to the fridge and pull out the wine and pour me a glass of wine, and we'd go sit. And she'd have some kind of, you know, slices of cheese and pepperoni for me, and of course she cooked dinner every night, and so that was a nice break for me to have that. And Marie did the same thing too. So they were good.
What are some of your favorite memories with your sisters?
Oh my God, Marie. Just absolutely incredible, right? I remember when we were living up in San Francisco, she had come to visit us, and we ordered a pizza, and so, you know, went, picked it up, brought it home, and we're all sitting down. We're kind of sitting on chairs, on stools, on the floor, eating this pizza, and we are all complaining how bad the pizza tasted. Right, Lisa? Well, maybe we even got 2 of them, right?
Totally.
We are all complaining about how bad the piece is all of a sudden. But we're all fighting for that last piece. And all of a sudden, Marie stands up with her hands on her hips and she says, "Oh my God, I'm sure glad we didn't like this pizza because we would have killed each other for that last piece." Do you remember that, Lisa?
It was funny.
Oh my God, it was absolutely hysterical. I mean, and the things that she would come out with, are you kidding? That guy is tighter than the bark on a tree. It's one of my favorites.
She was hilarious.
I mean, anything that came out of her mouth was so funny. What's the other one I love besides the bark on the tree? Oh, she just came out with the funniest sayings. It was, and she was an incredible cook. Oh my God, could she cook? She didn't bake, but boy, could she cook.
Yeah.
I always wish the Food Network was on when she was alive.
Oh God, she would have loved it.
I know.
I know, I know, she would have, definitely. So, and of course I babysat a lot for her, Carol and Donna. And so Marie came to visit us wherever we lived. She didn't miss any place. And so the kitchen always got a good workout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just like it was now, planning the next meal.
Oh yeah.
all that.
That was the other thing.
Nothing's changed.
Do you remember the time we decided to go? We were in Mission Viejo. The time we decided to go to Mexico for the day.
No, I don't remember this at all.
Okay.
Was I even there?
Well, Renee's going to remember this because when we came back from that trip, Renee said she wanted to be a social worker after seeing all those poor Hispanic people. Okay. So anyway, you know, we figured we'd get something to eat down there, but there's no way we get in our car and we don't bring food and drink. Okay. So Marie starts making, and we had eggplant. Marie starts making eggplant sandwiches, and she packed all this food. Well, I bet we hadn't even driven 3 miles down the road when your father asks, "So what did you bring to eat?" And so Marie says, "But we just left the house." I mean, can we wait? And he says, "Well, what for?" Right? And so we ended up, by the time we got to Mexico, we had eaten all the food that we brought. And she just couldn't believe it. And she says, "And nobody wanted me to bring food, and it's gone already." Oh my God, that was funny.
What were y'all doing in Mexico?
I don't know. We just got the
Eating
idea
food.
that we wanted to go to Tijuana. Is it Tijuana,
Tijuana,
that's
yeah.
right across the border? Right. Well, believe me, I don't think I ever went back after that because that wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
And it's even worse now, I think. I don't know. But anyway, so let's see, what else? What else can I tell you?
Well, what are some special memories you shared with Carmel? I remember as a kid you used to tell me about you used to like going to the movies with her.
Oh, you know what? That was the thought that I had when we first started, that I said I lost that thought. That was it. My sister Carm was even more of a movie fan than me. She just loved Hollywood. And so we used to go to the movies every Sunday. And we would sit in the very first row with our heads like this up at the screen, right? And my father would give us 50 cents each. 25 cents was for the ticket, 10 cents for the popcorn, and 5 cents for a soda. And the other 10 cents, we'd get 2 boxes of candy. And I always got jujubes and black nibs.
Yeah.
The black licorice, right? Same thing every Sunday. And so we'd watch these movies, and a lot of times they were double features, right? But anyway, we would even sit there when the first movie started again, and my father used to have to come every Sunday and pull us out of there and bring us home for dinner. And then there used to be a place that you could go, and I forgot what you had to give them, whether you collected bottle caps or something, and they had 8 by 10 photographs of all the movie stars in color. And so we used to go get those and put them up on our walls. And then Aunt Carmel, again, she was a good singer. She had a good voice. Okay, she could sing very well. And so anyway, she decided to buy there's your Amazon probably. When she divorced her husband, believe me, she did not get very much of a divorce settlement. As a matter of fact, I don't think she got more than $7,000 or $8,000, whatever, after all those years. And she bought herself a white mink jacket. A white mink jacket. And that's because that's so Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right? White mink jacket. And she loved that jacket, but she used to keep it in storage, and there were some winters where she didn't have the money to take it out of storage, so she didn't wear it. Which, of course, I never, knew about that. But when she was very sick, she told her daughter, Susan, when she passed away, she wanted Susan to give me that white mink jacket, because I would make use of it, and I even had pictures of it, got a hat to go with it, and whatever. And so anyway, when I had my 80th birthday, it doesn't even get that hot in Vegas anymore, so I decided to give it back to Susan. And, Carmel wanted me to have it while I was alive, and I thought, I'm not going to wear this anymore. And her daughter lives in New York City, right? And so I got it all ready for her and had it in a bag. And then, I don't know what happened to that mink. I think her daughter left it on the plane. Because Susan called me one day and said, Aunt Ro, you gave Melissa, is it Melissa? Yeah, it's Melissa, that white mink jacket. I said, well, yeah, it was in a big shopping bag. It was, wrapped in tissue paper, whatever. She said, because she's asking me if it's in my closet. I've looked all over my house, and she says she's looked all over her house, and so I said, well, she just must be missing it. And so she says, I'm sure it's at her house. She says she's got to look better. I have not had the nerve to ask Susan whether they ever found that mink jacket or not. I just can't, because I'm so sure that I'll bet you 2 bits she left that thing on the plane, because she wasn't used to having it, and whether they were tired from the trip or whatever. But I thought, oh my God, Carmel is in a casket. I said she's got to be rolling over in a grave if that thing was left over on a plane. Oh my God. But that was Carm. She always wanted to be very glamorous. And she did dress up real. She always dressed nice. She always looked nice. And, she may not have bought expensive clothes. But that's the other thing with me. I was quite a seamstress. And in high school is where I learned to sew. And I made a lot of beautiful, beautiful dresses, if you've seen in my pictures that I have. And your grandfather and I used to have to go to a lot of formal and semi-formal affairs, and I would make these beautiful gowns. And we ran into somebody in California that stopped us on the street, and we were talking to them, and we were talking about the wonderful parties that we went to when he was in the hotel business. And this guy said to me, he said, I tell you, Rosemary, we couldn't wait to go just to see what you would be wearing.
Yeah.
And I laughed and I said, really? I said, isn't that wonderful? I said, you know, I made most of those outfits. And they said, you did? Wow. And they just thought that was incredible. But anyway, I thought that was pretty funny. So, and I made your kids stuff, but not for my son. Anyway, I mean, I think I mentioned when Lisa was born, the May after we were married in June of 59, and then her brother was born the following February. So she was born in May of 16, he was born in February of 61, and then Renee was born in February of 63. So that was something else. But
Who was the easiest baby to have?
You mean physically?
Whatever. If
Lisa.
there's multiple answers, Lisa.
Well, yeah, Lisa, because once the pains got there, they gave me anesthetic that I didn't feel anything. But with Fred, that was horrendous. A lot of complications with Fred.
Mm-hmm. And
then Renee just couldn't wait to be born.
Yeah.
She just had to get there in a hurry. And she did. But I'm glad that we have all these wonderful photos. And I remember at one time that I went through all the photo albums and I divided them in threes. I mean, I gave each one of my children some. And I wonder if Fred still even has them. I put them in plastic 3-ring binder thing for him.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they're pretty neat to have. And Lisa, you have a lot of photo albums.
I have them all.
Yeah. So they're good. I have a friend who has no family pictures, and she talks about that, you know, all the time of growing up. She has no pictures of her or her brothers or anything like that, and she misses having that. But some things are more important to some people than others, right? That's cool, whatever.
So, I mean, yeah, you've taken pictures of people all your life. I mean, there's been pictures
Yes.
that you've kept.
I've always, yes, and I've gone through my photo albums and I've thrown a lot of them out. You know what's interesting? There's a magazine that comes out in Vegas, and this Dan Roberts is in charge of this magazine, and his last parent recently died, and so they went, and there are all these photo albums, and he put a picture of himself. I think he's about 60 years old now, of himself standing in the crib. And then there's all these pictures of all these relatives, and his kids are already telling him, and there's some things that he went through that he just feels he can't give away. They're part of history.
Yeah.
The family history. And his sons are telling him, well, as far as I'm concerned, you don't need to hang on to them and take up space in your house, because when you go, I don't want them, they're going to get thrown out. And he feels so bad, because none of his family wants any of those things. And they're saying, why would I want a picture of you standing in your crib? I know. You know what? I don't know. I know. I think that's kind of sad, you know. I mean, you may not go back and look at them very often, but at least you're going to see them once in a while. What's like our family video that I made. Yeah, it's kind of history. And then I think of all those poor people who died in that condominium, that they lost all their belongings, and other people in floods and hurricanes lose all that. So I'm grateful that that's never happened to our family.
And that we have multiple copies of everything.
Yeah, yeah.
You know
Spread
what?
across the country.
Yeah, yeah.
You know we do, don't we?
Yeah.
I know. I know.
Including this video.
Yeah, including
Yeah,
this
yeah,
video,
yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
will be stored on the iCloud
Yeah.
for safety.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very happy that we did this today, because I know that even after I'm gone for 20 years, maybe my great-grandchildren and great-grandchildren will take a look and say, oh, yeah, she's the one that loved it. Pizza and pasta in one meal. Yeah, at the same meal, like dying and going to heaven. Is the way I like to describe it, right? Right. Except, well, they'll show you pictures of me when I was a redhead. Because, yeah, right now I got my gray hair.
Grandma and I
Yeah.
had matching hair. Didn't
Yeah,
we?
oh, I
Yeah.
know. Oh my God, I love Christian's
Yeah.
hair. That color is incredible.
So what about some of the questions that you wrote?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you also some questions about how your relationship with Nano and your dad, how do you think that informed your relationship with your 3 children?
It's interesting. Um,
Quiet on the
Well,
set over there.
it's kind of, it's really, that's kind of a difficult question for me to answer because there were a lot of things going on in our household. I feel very sorry. I feel now I didn't play enough with my kids because they were all close in age. They always had each other to play with, all right? And their father put in long hours at work, but I was solely responsible for cleaning the house and going grocery shopping, doing all the, all the cooking and things like that, that I just feel like I didn't spend enough quality time with my kids doing fun things. However, their father did give us some wonderful family trips together. I mean, when we went skiing, and I'm carrying my skis like this across and banging into people instead of over here, and falling flat on my face, and my 2 daughters standing over me, laughing their heads off.
That sounds like our family.
Yeah.
And then we're standing in line to go see a show, and Fred is making eye contact because I think they were not old enough to go into this show. And Fred's making eye contact with some security guard, and Fred and his attitude. And so the guy came over to check his age, and sure enough, Fred couldn't go into the show with us. And here's Renee, 2 years younger than him, right, getting in the show. But it was because of his attitude looking at this security guard that did that, I'm sure. Right, you remember that?
Yep.
I know, that was pretty funny.
So were those trips some of your favorite memories from their childhood?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that. And also, when we lived in Canada, we had a house where their father would spray water down below where the house was and make an ice skating rink out of it. And so I think there were other kids that came over and skated on that rink, wasn't there? Yeah. And well, the dog situation, the animal situation. And I don't know what happened to me. The lady who was my godmother that confirmed me had a Great Dane dog. And I remember going into her apartment, and that dog started walking towards me, and they're pretty big, and I had to be pretty small. I never got past 5 feet, but I'm only, 12 years old when you're confirmed then? And I don't know whether that really scared the living daylights out of me, because I don't ever remember being bitten by a dog. I don't ever remember being chased by a dog, or, having a traumatic experience. So anyway, having 3 babies in practically 3 years, I did not want any animals. And then I remember that, of course, the kids all wanted a dog, and so one day Al brought home what do you call that dog with spots?
Dalmatian.
A Dalmatian Libra, okay?
What
Was
Libra
that the
was
first
the
dog
name?
we had? No, that wasn't the first dog. We did have
We
another
had a
dog.
beagle, I think, was the
First?
dog. I don't
But
know.
anyway, I told the kids they're the ones that had to take care of them, and I think the first dog we had a basement, and I got them all shovels and said, "You go down there, and you're the ones that are going to have to pick this up and throw it out." I would not take any responsibility for any of their care. But then when we came to California, we found somebody that would take Libra. And I was a terrible mother. When they came to pick that dog up, my Nana was with us, and I said, can you imagine, I told my 3 kids now, nobody's going to cry because you know he has to go. He just can't come with us. There's no point in it. He's going to a good home. So she puts Libra in her station wagon, and she's got the back window down about this much, and he's got his nose out the window, and as he drives away, I start crying. Nano starts crying, and the kids go, "I thought you said we couldn't cry." And so we're all standing there crying. And she had to sneak this dog into her house because her husband didn't want any more pets. And so she kept him a secret
How do you do that?
for I don't know whether it was 2-3 days, and anyway he finally discovers the dog, and he absolutely loved Libra. So Libra became his dog, and she says now they hardly get to play with him because he's in charge of him.
Yeah.
So that turned out all right. But and so all my children have had dogs of their own. Just ask them how they feel about that.
Yep.
Humble.
I got a
have
question
mom's
for you.
genes.
Yeah.
What was one of your favorite times you had with Pop-Pop?
With your grandfather?
Uh-huh.
One of my favorite times. Well, I guess I'd have to say it had to be within the first 10 years of marriage.
Yeah? What's an experience that you remember?
Because those were the times that, we were going to all these formal and semi-formal times, because we didn't go on any vacations. We didn't have any money. So it was mainly going to all these big hotels in Philadelphia and going out to those formal affairs.
Yeah. And that was so how you had Lisa a year after you were married, or 2?
Less than a year. We were married, well, yeah. We were married in June of 59, and she was born in May of 60.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I was pretty tied up with the kids, and, and during those years, too, your grandfather we moved to Rhode Island. We got out more when we stayed in Philadelphia, because Grandma DiDomenico would watch the kids for us. And, but then after we moved to Rhode Island, then, it was more difficult to get away by ourselves. And then he got a job in Rhode Island, Providence, and then he was only there for a few months when they promoted him to a job in Boston. So now what he did was he left on a Monday morning with the only car we had, and I was at home with 3-year-old, 2-year-old, and newborn. And he'd come home late Wednesday night, and he would leave Thursday morning. He'd come home late Friday night. And Saturday I would get the car and go grocery shopping and run errands and do whatever I had to do, and he would fertilize the lawn and do whatever he had to do, and Monday morning he was back on the road again. And that went on for a good year, I think, maybe even longer. And I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown. I just couldn't handle it. anymore. And so that's when we decided to move to Boston. We were going to move to Boston where he was working. But before that happened, he got another job. I think that one was in New York, because that's when I think we moved to New Jersey. So, and we had a good circle of friends in New Jersey, and we were all raising kids the same age.
So the kids would play together.
Yeah. And I had a lot of pictures of the birthday parties when they were all over, and we had a swing set in the yard for them. And do my daughters remember swinging on that swing set singing Bye Bye Blackbird? Because we had a neighbor who used to love it. She used to hear us all the way across her backyard singing Bye Bye Blackbird while they were swinging on the swing set. And I did not go back to work up to that point. And it was there when we were living in New Jersey that, I don't know what happened with your father's job, whether he lost it or whatever, but anyway, I had to go back to work, and that was very, very difficult.
Because how long did you not work?
8 years.
Okay.
It was 7, 8 years.
As a nurse, you went back to work?
Right, and without any refresher course or anything.
Mm-hmm.
In Red Bank, New Jersey. And so I had to go back. I had to go buy a uniform and get all this ready. And the first day I'm supposed to report to work, your grandfather was going out interviewing for jobs. However, he wasn't back in time. I mean, I had to leave to work, so I had to call one of my girlfriends, and I'm crying over the phone. She knew I was going to go back to work that day, and she came right over. She had her 3 kids in the car, and she piled my 3 kids in the car and took them to her house, and we left a note for your grandfather where to go to pick them up. Yeah, so that was, but we had a lot of good times with them, with those couples. Sometimes I wonder what happened to them and their kids. So, anyway, I think that's about it. I mean, what could I possibly tell you more? Unless
What
we...
great kids you have.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that the truth? I am so blessed.
Especially the baby in the family.
Yeah.
I am so blessed. I mean, I am so grateful to have my 2 grandsons that I felt always very much loved and respected, which says a lot nowadays. And my 3 children, and I'm so happy for my family too, because I know that they're always going to be here for each other. You guys will always be here for each other.
Maybe not Fred, but Lisa and
Yeah, even
That's
Fred.
not true.
Fred will be
She's
here.
kidding.
I definitely believe that he's doing great things in his life, and he's satisfied with his life. And well, we all don't agree on everything all the time, but that's human nature.
I agree.
All gotta go our own way. But I've been so blessed. I look back at my life and feel that, in a way, I have led a very sheltered life. Very sheltered life. Being raised in a small town, and when I see what's going on in the world today, and the things that people have had to put up with because of whether it's their color of their skin or their religion or whatever, it is very sad. But I guess that's the way the world is. They've had their problems. God created it, I guess. And I guess it's always going to be around. So, gotta try to do the best that we can, right?
Mm-hmm.
And treat
With-
everyone like they're Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah.
And or whatever superhuman being one thinks about. It's just it's just as easy to be kind and considerate as to be mean and nasty. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it takes more work to be mean and nasty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
There's a lot more thought on the back end of
Oh.
being mean and nasty.
I know. So
Yeah.
that's what we have to do. You have to be kind to everybody.
Okay. Well,
And appreciate the important things of life, like
Like
love and family and faith. Absolute faith in God, whatever kind of God you believe in. And there's quite a few different ones, I know.
Well, thank you for sitting down for this interview.
Well, thank
with
you
us.
for
Yeah.
doing
we gotta
it.
do the next section of it where your daughters get to ask you questions.
Yeah.
Oh, really? My daughters
Yep.
are going to ask us questions?
Yep. Yep.
Well, hi, I'm back again with my two beautiful daughters, Renee here and Lisa here. I am so happy to be with them. I don't believe I mentioned this in the other part of our video, but I'd like to say it now. I felt for most of my adult life, my main goal was to live my life so that when the Lord was ready to take me home, I could be in heaven with Him for eternity. And so one of the questions I always asked myself whenever I was faced with something, some kind of a problem, or wondering what to do, I would always ask myself, what would Jesus say in this circumstance? Or what would Jesus do in this circumstance? And I found that that helped me so much in my journey through life. And I would suggest that for other people to think about that. And it helps make decisions, good decisions, hopefully. So my daughters are going to ask me some questions here. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear them. And anyway, I will be as honest as I can. If I feel I can't say what I really want to say, I'll let you know.
Alrighty, I'll ask the first question. What are you most proud of about being a mother?
Oh, what am I the most proud of? How my children grew up to be wonderful, loving, responsible, kind, and generous adults in every way. I know all the good deeds they have done throughout their life, and I think it's just incredible. I am so proud of them in all their accomplishments in life, and there are still so many more to come. And then, of course, the two greatest compliments, my daughters having their sons, bringing into the world, Renee bringing Dalton into the world, and Lisa bringing Christian into the world. And Renee, so proud, the first 5 years of his life you did it by yourself. And you did a lot of it by yourself too.
Yeah.
You may not have been alone part of the time, but you were still doing it yourself. And these wonderful grandsons that I have that I am so proud of and so happy with. And so I feel that has helped me realize, well, I did something right. I've got a beautiful family in my children and in my grandsons, and in turn what they did for their children.
That's awesome. I'd like to elaborate on that a little bit. I think one of the things that I feel very proud of for you being my mom is your faith in God. I think that, you know, even if I wasn't going to church every day, your faith in God is always a true testament of continuing to have faith no matter what, and whether you realize it or not, it goes a long way.
Well, I'm
I
very
think that's
happy to
been
hear
an
that.
incredibly huge example to our family.
Yeah. And I would just say nurturing family.
making it important for us all to get together and, have fun together. That's been really nice. Thank you, Mom.
Well, you're welcome.
All right, now I'm going to ask a fun question.
Okay.
How old? I didn't want to ask that as the first one out of the gate. How old were you when you started smoking? And if you remember that story, I would love to hear it.
Oh my gosh. When we lived on South James Street in Rome, New York, there was a gas station across the street, and cigarettes were 25 cents a pack. And my father used to always send us across the street to get him his cigarettes, right? Lucky Strike is what he smoked.
And they
So-
sold them to the kids back then, I
Oh
guess.
yeah, just walked in there. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, because we were just kids. Well, how old was I? I couldn't get a hold of any of his cigarettes, so me and my friend would go up in the attic, and we would roll pieces of paper and light them up
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
and smoke the paper. It's incredible we didn't burn the damn house
Oh
down.
my god.
That is
Right.
funny.
See
And
what
now,
bad
how
examples
how
parents
old
can
was
set.
I at the
Yeah.
time? Oh my God! I'm sure I was at least probably 11 or 12 years old. I was very young, doing that.
You used to do that with your friends?
Yeah, I had a friend down the street that we used to go up there together and roll up pieces of paper. And you could do that. Roll it up and light it up, and you'll
my-
get some smoke in your lungs.
Oh my gosh.
And then I think I went to, if my father left his cigarettes hanging around, I went to maybe, grabbing one out of the pack. But I'm not sure. I really can't remember whether he caught on to that or not, and he just never laid them around anymore. Because he never bought a carton. He would always buy like one pack at a time. That was
That is funny.
funny.
And your parents never smelled cigarette smoke on you?
I really don't recall. I don't recall them ever talking to me about it.
They were busy.
Well, either that or I sprayed myself with Evening of Paris perfume. That cheap perfume,
cute.
that blue bottle. Oh my
You want to
God.
ask any questions, Lise, off here? You want
Oh,
me
go
just
ahead.
to
You
ask
can,
them?
you can just do it.
Okay. Tell us something you did. Oh no, I'm not going to ask that one yet. What's the story about Nano and the clocks?
Oh my. She did, she was really she was more of a risk taker than I did. There are a lot of things that I wonder about Nano, how I wish she were here that I could ask her some more questions, right? But anyway, she loved to dance, and so they went, I think it was wintertime, and they went to Utica to go dancing, and when they were, and she was supposed to be home by midnight. And by the time they went to come home, there was quite a storm, and they were trying to shovel the snow away, and whether the car was stuck or whatever, but she knew she was going to be late. So by the time she got home, it was, I believe it was like 2 in the morning. And so what she did is she went to the kitchen clock and she turned it back to midnight because she knew her mother would be getting out of bed to see what time it was she was getting home. And she sat on the stairway real quiet, and then she heard her grandmother get up and then go back to bed. And then when she did that, she went back and she changed the clock back to the real time because she knew her father was going to get up in the morning. Otherwise, that would make him late for work, right? So anyway, that's what she did, and she got away with being out pretty late that night.
Wow. Did you ever do anything like that?
No. I'm telling you, I just
Played by the rules.
played kind of by the
Oh,
rules.
Well,
the
that was
rules.
one of my questions. You can't think of one thing that you did that was against the rules. It doesn't have to be even a big deal.
Aside from smoking.
Aside
paper in
from
the
smoking and
Well-
Yeah.
there has to be something else. In your entire life, you're 84 years old.
Christian, Was it you? Somebody asked me if you were Dalton. Or maybe it was Chase at one point. That they were writing a paper and they wanted to know what was the worst thing I ever did in my life. And I couldn't answer that because I just couldn't think of anything that was that bad that I did. I'm telling you, I was just not a rule.
Breaker.
I
So
just
when you
was
had
not
to go
a
to
rule breaker.
confession every week, what things did
Well,
you
that's
say
what
then?
I hated. I forgot to say my morning prayers. I forgot to say my evening prayer. You know, all that baloney. Whoops. Well, it is. I mean, you know, I would never change my religion from Catholicism, although I must admit I've come very close to that in the last 2 or 3 years, okay? But I have decided this is the church I was brought up with, and while I do not agree with 100% of their teachings, and after what's been going on, I won't let any priest, bad priest, bishop, cardinal, pope, turn me away from God. I decided I would have my relationship with God and go by my conscience and do what I think is right. And of course, the big thing was in my days birth control with the Catholic Church. But you know, I just
Did you ever drink underage?
well, yeah, we went in high school. Remember I said I think I drank rum and cokes, or maybe it was Tom Collins. Come to think of it, Tom Collins sounds more familiar. But my mother never asked me if I was drinking alcohol, so I never lied to her.
Right.
Well, it's true, right? So, I mean, now if she asked me if I was drinking alcohol, I don't know what I would have said back then. I don't know what I would have come up with. If she knew we were drinking alcohol, I would think she'd be very concerned with the boys who were doing the driving,
Yeah.
which was bad because you know what? They all turned out to be alcoholics. They were all alcoholics. I know. That was crazy. I say all, probably 70% of them anyway.
Okay. Tell us about your rosary beads and the Jesus statue.
Oh my goodness. That's the infant of Prague statue. Well, Renee, get him right there. See him right there? I went to, the Blessed Mother has been appearing in Medjugorje, which used to be Yugoslavia. Now it's Croatia. I think it's still called Croatia, isn't it? For 40 years. This is the 40th year anniversary of those appearances. And there's been special messages that have been going on and special things happening. And I was fortunate to take the trip to Medjugorje, and it was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. You know, one of the things is you can, I don't know if I ever showed you guys my album of pictures from that or not. But one of the things is there's a ring of fire that dances around the sun during the day. And only those, I think, who are just especially blessed can look up at that and look at it, and it won't hurt their eyes. And I was blessed enough for that to happen to me. I was able to look at that dancing fire
Ring of
sun.
fire?
Yeah, the ring of fire.
Oh, cool.
I was able to do that. And the other thing is that chains of rosary beads turn to gold. And but that not only happens in Medjugorje, that happens all over the world. And Uncle Frank had that experience. He went to Florida on a mission trip, and they were in a car accident. But anyway, all those guys that were in the car accident, they were attacked, actually, somebody was shooting at him. And all those people that were in the car survived. Frank had a bullet go through the sleeve of the jacket he was wearing, and I'm not sure if it
Oh my
scratched his
gosh.
arm or not. But all those guys that were in that car had rosary beads, and the chains all turned gold. And so when he came back from that trip, believe it or not, I was doing claims for State Farm, and that's how I learned about that car accident, because it was a State Farm car that they were in or something.
He never told us about it?
Well, it seems to me I heard about it through that first, whether it was even before he got back from the trip or what, I don't know. I don't remember that detail. But anyway, he pulled out his rosary beads and he showed them to me, and I went, oh my God. I said, I wouldn't even know if that happened to me or not. I got to go look and see what my rosary beads look like. So I went and got every pair of rosary beads I had, and they were all sterling silver, okay? And so anyway, I thought that was real cool, and for something like that
When
to
did they
happen.
turn gold?
So then it was when I was going through all the problems with your father, and I was contemplating what to do. I was praying so hard, especially to the Blessed Mother. Please help me. Do you hear what I'm saying? And I woke up like at 5 in the morning, and it was still dark in the room, so I started praying the rosary.
Mm-hmm.
And as it gets light, I'm looking at my rosary beads, and I'm thinking, they're changed, they look different. Well, I rushed through the last few Hail Marys, and I got up, grabbed, and had the rosary beads in my hand, and I ran downstairs, put my glasses on, put the kitchen light on, and sure enough, the chain had turned gold. Now, the cross doesn't turn gold, or this part in between. But do you see
Yeah.
the gold color in those right
Yeah.
now? All right. Well, this is not the pair. It's my crystal pair that I leave home, that I had that special box made for. And so, anyway, of course, I was quite thrilled, and I apologized to the Blessed Virgin for doubting that she was
Listening
hearing
to you.
my prayers. So then I was on my way to your chiropractor's office, Jason's office, one morning, and it was kind of cloudy, and I'm driving along Ann Road, and again I was troubled about something, and I don't even remember what I was troubled about. But all of a sudden there was a break in the clouds, and a stream of light came down. And I used to pray the rosary on my way there, because it would take me about that amount of time to say the rosary. So I had them in my hand, and I was praying the rosary when that happened, and all of a sudden I looked down and I went, are you kidding me? And I pulled over to the side of the road, and sure enough, it was these beads. And these were the ones that this was after I'd been to Medjugorje, a few years later. So these were the ones that I bought in Medjugorje and brought home. So anyway, and again, you can see that the cross is still silver, and this part is still silver, but they're gold in color. And I had to laugh because Dion's grandfather asked me if I took him to a jeweler to see if it was real gold. I said, of course not. Why would I do that? I don't need to know if they're real gold or not. They're gold in color. It's good enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we have, Nano had that statue of the Infant of Prague. And it has 4 different color capes that you change on it according to the season of the church year. And what were they? One is white, one is gold, one is purple, I forget, and one is green. And so Nano said that the one that was green oh, I forget which one it was, but whatever she had on there, it turned to gold. And I think it was the green one, because now I have two gold ones, and the green one is missing. And you know what, I am so terrible. I didn't believe her at first. I didn't believe it at first, And then of course when I went, at a later date, I went through all these different robes and came across them. I realized, oh my God, there's two gold robes here. And the green one is missing. So I keep remembering too, I've looked this up, but I can't remember what the story of the infant of Prague is. But anyway, so these are very precious, and when it comes to the Blessed Mother, I'm reading a book. When you stop to think, in our Catholic religion and the Christian religion, she was impregnated by the Holy Spirit, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Which makes the Holy Spirit her husband, her spouse. Well, but according to our religion, you have three divine persons. You have God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And so I'm reading this book that tells about how powerful our Blessed Mother is in heaven, because she's actually the spouse of all the Trinity, and how important she is. And that's why praying to her through an intercessor is a very good idea. And how could I not believe it? Because she's the one that I've always prayed to. And it's gotten me as far as I've gotten.
Why did you always pray to her? Did you learn that in school? Or
I don't
was
know.
Nano?
No, it
Or
was
Mary
like,
was.
I
judged?
just always thought she was so beautiful. And, the Mother of God, and Nano talked about her a lot. And then it was when I went to nurses training, that became a little more powerful to me. And then when I went to, with my chorus to Rome, with my choir, when we went to Rome, in Salzburg, I roomed with a roommate. We went to Paris. We ate at Maxime's lunch. And she prayed the rosary every day. And I said, you pray the rosary every day? She says, yeah. She says, don't you pray the rosary? I said, well, once in a while, but not every day. She says, well, you should start praying it every day. She says, Rosemary, it doesn't take more than 15 minutes if you concentrate, and if your mind wanders, maybe it'll take 20 minutes. And so ever since then, I've been doing it every day. But even more so, I don't want to miss a day. He's fallen asleep too. But anyway.
Cool. That was a
Next
fun
question.
story. Tell us about your relationship with Uncle Dickie, and if you have any fun stories about him or you guys together, that'd be fun.
Well, as I said, I was 9 years old when he was born, and I was like a second mother to him. And we were very, very close. And when I married your father, I took him everywhere with me. We had a pool in the backyard of our house, and so I used to take him to the playground and the pool and all that kind of stuff. And then when I married your father, we knew that once I got out of my wedding gown and I got in my dress to go away, I was leaving Rome, New York, and moving to Philadelphia. And my brother, I went to say goodbye to him, and nobody could find him. Couldn't find him anywhere. And so I left without saying goodbye to him, and then I found out the next day that he hid under my bed when I was leaving, and he was crying, and he cried himself to sleep, so they never found him till about 10 o'clock at night or something. Yeah, but he became a drummer, and he got married, and he had children, but he was still a drummer, and he was going from city to city playing jobs, and so I didn't stay that close contact with him, because I was very busy with my own family. and he eventually divorced his wife, and then he remarried Diana, as you know, and I can tell you, he just worshiped the ground she walked on, and you know why? Because she accepted him for the way he was. She did not try to change him. And he was telling me that his neighbors think he's crazy because he has, well, it can't be her ashes because I don't think she was cremated. I don't know what he did, but he brings some kind of a urn out there at the porch, and he her picture.
Oh.
He has her picture out on a chair on the front porch, and he goes out there and he sits and he talks to her. He has conversations with her all the time. And the neighbors, they don't see the picture there. They think he's just sitting on his porch talking to himself. So he says all his neighbors stay away from him because they think he's crazy.
Didn't you say that he did that when he received? Did he receive Nano's ashes? And you had the
he
box
did that
sitting
with
on
that
the-
too,
Yeah.
right. He asked me if he could have some of Nano's ashes, and so I got a little urn for him, and so he kept some of them, and that's true. He was very close to Nano. He was very close to Nano. I was kind of angry when he bought a house, that he bought the kind of house there was no room that he would ever be able to take her in, because now all her daughters were out of town. She only had her son living in Rome. And, but anyway, he went there once a week and did her grocery shopping for her. And you know, his kids used to go to proms, and they used to go visit her.
Oh, that's so
You
cute.
know,
Yeah.
in their gowns and their corsages. You know, I brought that up to them, and they don't even remember doing it.
Oh, that's
How
funny.
could you not remember doing that? I thought, my God, that's crazy. But anyway, yeah, so he was very close to her, and he would do that with her too. See, with Nano, he'd bring the urn there and talk to Nano on the porch, but with his wife, it's a picture. He has a picture of his wife, a 5x7 in his car. You know, he has a new red two-seater sports car. I told you what kind it was. Do you remember, Dalton? I forget what it is. Anyway, he has a 5x7 picture of her right there in the car, and every time he gets in, he thanks her for it, because she was socking away all this money that he didn't know she was socking away. So when she passed away, he's got more money than I do, which is incredible. It's funny. And he's hysterical because when you spend your life being frugal, all of a sudden, and he never drove a decent car. They were always wrecks that he drove. And their big night out for dinner was at Denny's. Okay? Never went to a restaurant out for dinner. And that kind of, you know, that makes me feel bad to think that that's the kind of life he lived, but I guess it was all right with him because he did it, right? But when now that she passed away, he goes to a nice restaurant once a week and has a filet mignon dinner, and he bought this car that's worth about $40,000. I forget what kind it is. And he doesn't have no bills. He, you know, his house is all paid for. So anyway, he's doing fine, but he still misses his wife so much.
Yeah.
Still misses her a great deal.
They were best friends for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She accepted him the way he was. She never tried to change him. So
If you hadn't become a nurse, what other career would you have been interested in? If you could have done anything else other than nursing, what do you think you would have gotten into?
well, I know what I would have wanted to get into was to be play the piano and sing, be an entertainer,
Cool.
to be an entertainer. But of course, now I look back on all these, some of the female entertainers I've known. It's a tough job, unless you become a, what's her name, Evelyn Keyes, or
I
you
don't
know,
know who that is.
Alicia Keys?
Alicia Keys. There we go. Don't have right first name or something like that. But all the ones that have entertained me, that have done that, God, they have great voices and they do such a great job, but they've all had very, very tough lives.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I love to sing. I was in choruses from grade school, junior high, senior high, and of course we sang in nurses training in the chapel, and then I joined our church choir. That was
Yeah.
such a great church choir.
It was good.
I know, we won it best in Orange County. So that was a great experience. And actually, they have groups where I live. I'm surprised I know why. I didn't join the one up there because when they rehearsed, I was in another kind of club that I wanted to do that rather than that. But anyway, they have that in Sun City available.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so
What are the first words you'll say to God when you enter heaven? When you see him and enter heaven, what do you think will be your first words?
I am so happy to be here.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
I am so happy to be here.
And
And-
to see all your
and
family.
And then I have a list of
Your
questions.
sisters. Oh, a list of questions. Of course you do.
Although, who knows? What I've been told along the way is that you get up there when you face judgment. Any questions that you have about anything you will be enlightened to everything. You'll have the answers to everything.
What do you think? What are your questions now?
Why there's just so much pain and suffering in the world? Why is there so much hate? Of course, they tell us it's because, the Catholic Church, because God gave us free will, and this is what we're doing with it. But anyway, well, yeah, and you're right, Lisa. That's the other thing, seeing my family. I have that picture of Nano and my father in the living room, and it looks like they had to be in their late 30s for that picture. And so that's what they're going to look like when I see them again. And supposedly, I've heard that story so many times, that we go back to the way we looked like when we were 33, because that's the age that Jesus died. And I thought, isn't it interesting? You remember that movie we watched, Heaven is for Real? That he identified his grandfather because he showed him a picture of him when he was 33, but when he showed him one when he was 65, he says, no, I don't know who that was.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I know, and you wonder, is this all fake or what? But anyway, I think that's, so it's nice to know we'll look like what we did when we were 33.
It's good news. Yeah.
I don't have any more questions. Do you, Lise?
No, I don't think so.
Who's your favorite child?
Oh, I love them all equally. I love them all equally for all their individual talents that each one has.
Okay, I got
And
a
their
we're all
individual
specific question.
personalities.
What's your favorite part of each of your children? Starting with Lisa.
What is
What's your favorite part, and what have you learned from each of your kids?
That's tough.
I know. That's like, you really got to think about it.
Exactly. Don't
Oh
you want to
my
know?
goodness.
You're first.
Well, with Lisa, it's not that difficult because Lisa has always been the caretaker of her siblings. I've always felt I could always depend on Lisa to look after her brother and sister, and she did it most of the time very lovingly.
Sometimes not so loving. Sometimes very bossy.
Yeah, and she's very, very dependable, And,
Like a true Taurus.
yeah, I know,
We're both Tauruses.
I know.
Dependable, loyal.
And we're
Family
there when,
oriented.
yeah, we're, I know that if I ever call her, well, I do this with all of you. If I ever called any of you that I really needed something for you, there'd be no way that you would not do for me what you could. So, and she being the eldest, oh my God, I mean, how can I forget when we brought Renee home from the hospital? And Lisa woke up for that 2 a.m. feeding. She was wide awake, and I left her in the bedroom with Renee, and I said, okay, do not touch the baby, Lisa. I'm just going to run and get her bottle. And when I tell you that I had to go from here to the doorway and back, and I ran, grabbed the bottle, ran back. Here's Lisa holding Renee in her arms perfectly, absolutely perfectly, with a head cradled in here, and she's going like this.
Oh my God, a newborn.
And I almost,
And you were 3.
I
Thanks a lot.
I almost had a heart attack. I went, oh, okay, but I kept my cool, and I said, let me have her now. And I did the most horrible thing. I mean, I just.
And then I got scolded.
Oh, she got scolded. I probably even hit you on the butt. Or hit you on the hands. Don't you ever touch that baby again like that. I mean, I almost went hysterical because I couldn't believe the amount of time that she picked up that baby and was holding her perfectly in her arms. So, I mean, age 3 already, she was taking care of her sister, right? I know. And
I
of
told her
course
the same thing when Dalton was born. Don't you touch that baby. And I went to get the bottle, and sure enough, she was holding Dalton.
Oh my God, that is funny.
She was like that with Dalton too.
I know.
As soon as Dalton was born,
I
like
know.
she just
Oh.
wanted. She
I
def-
was.
Oh,
you
yeah.
definitely
Nice.
wanted to hold.
Yeah.
You wanted to hold them all
Hold
the
the
time,
babies.
and just you really, you couldn't wait to have your own. Too, after Dalton was born. But anyway, and of course her success in her career, and well, I know your father was a hard worker. I'm not saying, maybe the last few years he did slack off because he went off in his religious direction. But while he worked for companies, I'm pretty sure he worked pretty hard for him, and I did. Oh my God, I did 120%. And you have the same work ethic, and that's of course why you got as far as you did.
Yeah.
Because of your work ethic and your smarts.
Yep.
Oh, okay. And your smarts.
So what
No.
did you learn from her?
What did I learn from Lisa? How not to spend money.
That's
As we say in a really expensive house.
How not to spend money.
We are different that way.
Yeah, right.
We are on the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right. She takes well after her father on that end.
Especially with the Italian sports car in the garage.
Oh, right. And then, you know what? I think I was complaining to your Aunt Marie at one point that I just drove me crazy the way that you spent money, and Marie got so mad at me. Why the heck shouldn't she? She works so hard. She says she deserves everything she gets. I'm glad she's doing it. She always stuck up for you.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Aunt Marie, because she was frugal too.
Oh well, with a few things. Oh my God. Oh, when she came to visit us, we went out for dinner, and I think your father picked up the tab for dinner that night, right? And then we decided to go to the Ritz-Carlton for an after-dinner drink. And your father orders a brandy that was $40. Oh, I think Marie almost had a heart attack. You know, she used to get so mad, and so of course she used to say, well, she takes a look, she had a teacher there, you know. So you know, what do you expect? So Fred, Fred was a good child. He really was, and I guess he was kind of shy. I'm now finding out that he did so many things I was not aware of. I would have been horrified. If he was very good at hiding bad things that he was doing. However, you know, when you stop to consider, I'm going to say he didn't get into drugs. He didn't get into alcohol. I don't know. Maybe he smoked marijuana when he was in high school. I have no idea. But, well, wait a minute. Yes, I do. He was growing a plant in the house.
That you watered.
That I watered. I didn't even know what it was. And I know you kids were all laughing when Marie came to visit. Oh my God, whatever. But I think he's made a lot of very bad decisions in his life, and but he's paid the consequences for him. But I think he's learned from those, you know, decisions, and I feel right now he's close to the Lord, and I just get a kick out of it because I know he practically knows the Bible by heart. But sometimes I want to say, which Bible are you reading? I get it. Yeah, but I mean, he's good-hearted. He's very generous. Doesn't take much. I mean, he helps people who need to be helped. I know he treated a lot of patients for free. He didn't care if they didn't have money. He wanted to help them, and that's what he's doing right now. And sometimes God love him. You know, he can come off as thinking that he knows everything, which nobody knows everything. But I'm glad he has that confidence, because without that confidence, he wouldn't be successful, right?
Yep.
I know. And he also has a lot of smarts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just never realized. I mean, I never knew that he worked his way through his first 4 years of college. Never knew that. Never knew that. And I just couldn't believe that. And how that never even got discussed. But anyway, now, so then...
Well, what did you learn from Fred?
What have I learned from Fred? I have to be more open-minded and a little more flexible in my thinking.
That's a good one, Mom.
Yeah. I can't be totally blind to things that are going on, because they are going on. I may not agree with them, but not to be blind to them completely. I know we all have our different opinions about things, and you got to respect different opinions. And if you can't have a conversation without fighting, then you don't have a conversation. You don't talk about it, that's all. I'd rather not talk about it than to disrupt family relationships. I'll put it that way. Renee.
Last but not least,
The
Oh
baby.
my
the baby of the
God.
family.
Whoa. I'll tell you, she just gave me the most trouble of all 3 kids.
What?
She defied me every step of the way.
It's because
She
I
was not
lived home the
expecting that.
longest.
Yeah,
No, it was funny, but from when you were a little girl, you just like to do things your way, and
You weren't having any of
Yeah,
it.
Shame
no,
on
it,
me.
it was
Like,
like
no, I don't agree with that.
No, I just can't believe it. I mean, I believe it. I can't
Yeah,
believe it.
exactly.
Well, it's so funny because, you know, when you were a little kid, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't until actually you became a teenager that it really became more difficult. I mean, she wore her father's flannel pajama top to high school. And she started a fad. The teachers, the coaches, they said, "Is that a pajama top she's wearing?" Next thing you know, all the other girls are wearing flannel pajama tops to school. She was never, I mean, she wanted to set a style. She went out and set her style. And very independent thinking. I mean, there were people that you hung out with that I didn't think were good for you to hang out with, but it was like those are lessons that you had to learn for yourself. And very trusting in people. Just, I don't know how you are nowadays, but back then, well, listen to me, I believed everything that everybody told me too, because I never lied to anybody. Why would you lie to someone? And when you're not a liar,
Yeah, I do.
So that's kind of how that goes. I just, but we got through them, didn't we? We got through them, and I look back now and think of all the independent decisions she made that I thought were wrong, and they turned out to be 100% right. So you were right. And now too. The same thing goes with now. But you love to dance all those nights. My God, you drove into LA. I just, so I told you, if you can't come home by the time you're supposed to, then you're going to have to move out. She says, okay, and she was gone in a week. I thought I'd die.
That's so funny.
She took me up on it. Oh my God. I know, that was funny. Okay, so what else can I say? What did I learn from you? What have I learned from you? It's almost like the same with Fred. Got to be more flexible in
Christian,
my
you can grab
thinking.
the dog, honey.
And if I appreciated all
Never
these
mind.
years you're doing my hair, and I know I've been your toughest customer.
Yeah, she's done a great job doing your hair all these years.
I know, and I appreciate that so much.
I think
And,
Renee
and
has
the
the
joy.
sweetest heart of all of us.
Oh, and the joy of helping you raise Dalton those first 5 years of his life. Oh my God. Oh,
Yeah.
the fun that we and Nano had with you was just incredible. So I'm glad you didn't meet Kenny before then. That's for sure. I mean, so, and then also, very proud of with both my daughters, with the love that you both have for your sons. And, it's like, this is a terrible thing to say, but if a husband gives you a hard time and you feel it's bad for a child, you can always get rid of the husband and get another one, but you can't get rid of your son. Right?
Yeah.
Change husbands,
Yeah.
but you cannot change your sons. Your children are your life forever, and that's the part of being a mother. It does, and you know what? You just wait till you have your own kids. You're going to think back on these days.
Can't wait till those days
because
happen.
you just can't imagine the love of a parent towards their own child is different than anything else. Anything else. Even these people who are so in love with each other, husband and wives, once they have that child, that changes to a certain extent. Any choices got to be made.
One of my favorite memories was when I had Christian, and I came home from the hospital that first day, and you were there, and you were 3 weeks early, and I don't remember if you flew in early or if you were already there. I don't even remember where you were living, Mom. We were living in Mission Viejo.
I think I was living in
You were
Mission.
Mission. Oh, okay, I remember. So anyway, I had just gotten everything ready, like that day, and like bought the last thing that we had to buy. and I remember coming home and I just started bawling. Mom made dinner. So we come home from the hospital and, you know, she had made dinner and we're all sitting around the table and I'm like sobbing like, oh my God, I have no idea what to do with this baby. I was freaking out. Like, I didn't know how to use any of the stuff. I took all these classes. I have no idea what to do. I was just literally freaking out. It was so funny. And Mom was like, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. You were always that nurse instinct of always taking over when we were sick or feeling
Yeah.
anxious about something. She was always the calm one.
That happened to me with Dalton. Dalton just had, like, he was a newborn, and of course he was born in July, so it was hot. And he had like a little rash right here, like a little red rash on his neck and right here. And it was when the AIDS virus was just
started.
Yeah. And I was sleep deprived, right? I was like waking up every 2.5 hours, and he had this rash, and I'm like, Mom, I think Dalton has AIDS. And she looked at me, and she's like, what? Look at that rash. And she's like, honey, that's a heat rash. It's hot outside. I was like sobbing.
Oh my God.
So it was very nice
Yeah.
having mom around.
Yeah,
oh my
that's
God,
so
I
true.
know. Oh dear.
And look at, we have these adult children now.
I know.
It's crazy. Not too adult.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I mean, you know, Dalton, when Nana went into that assisted living place and you were in middle school, he would go over there every night after school. He'd get out of school and he'd stop by and say hi to Nana.
Oh, cute.
He would play
How
bingo
sweet.
with her, and how all those
Bingo.
other people just absolutely loved him. He had his guitar class go over there and do a concert for them, which was so nice. Oh my God, she was so happy to have you there all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, talk about a kind heart too, right? Like his
Yeah.
mother. I mean, what other little kid and a boy in middle school would want to go see his great grandmother all the time
I know.
in a home
Cute.
like that when he could be doing other things, right? Well, I know you would have too, Christian, if you were there. Didn't mean to make that sound like that, but anyway, yeah. So we've had a few laughs, that's for sure.
Yeah, at Nano's place, they didn't really like it. Some of the players didn't really like it when we were there because they thought Nano had extra help playing bingo.
Yeah, right.
So they didn't think it was fair when Dalton and I were there that she had extra help and that we were more or less cheating because
Oh
Because
my
my young
gosh.
Like
Because-
how you can cheat with bingo, right?
Yeah.
and we used to make all the food sound Italian when we would eat with her.
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, because, you know, she wasn't into any other food other than Italian. So one meal in particular, they were serving chicken enchiladas, and we told her it was chicken parmesan.
Yeah.
We tried to make every meal seem somewhat
That
Italianish.
is hilarious.
Because she would just, if she wasn't quite sure, we'd cut her food for her, and she'd push it around with her fork.
Yeah.
She'd wonder what it was, and then when we would make it sound Italianish, like she would try it. But
She was probably like, this is the worst chicken
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just think how lucky
That
it's going to
is
be for
so
you guys.
funny.
See, because you'll be able to put anything in front of me. I'll eat anything. Oh my God.
Well.
Except sushi. Don't want any raw fish. Don't ever put any raw fish in front of me. Well, this has been very nice. It's been more than very nice. It's been wonderful.
What's one last thing? We got 4.5 minutes left. So let's just give you guys 2 minutes apiece, or if you want that much time. But what is one last thing that you want to leave Grandma with?
Well, it would be just how proud our whole family feels to have you as a mother and a grandmother. And even though we all tease each other sometimes, but I couldn't ask for a better mother and grandmother, and you've been a great example in so many levels of parenting, and as I said earlier, in your faith, and
have to write her
you're
an
like
email.
a legacy. You're really like a legacy in our family. And to know that your grandsons, it was their idea to make a video, to your point, it shows how proud they are of you, and that we want to be a part of this. And Fred, hopefully he'll be able to make a video, with you at some point as well, so that he has an opportunity to do the same thing. And you always talk about how you're ready, you're ready whenever God's ready for you, but we hope that you're here a lot longer.
Well, we'll leave it all up to him.
Right.
And I promise I won't do anything to make it sooner than later.
Okay. Deal.
But I am still gonna maybe have 1 or 2 cigarettes a day and have my martinis.
I think that's what's keeping you alive.
Yeah, right. I think so too.
Because you always have something to look forward to.
There you go.
I
There you
think
go.
that's very important.
Yes, I think so too. Love you.
I got my emotions from my mother. I'm a big crybaby. I tell Christian that all the time. I used to get really mad at my mom for crying all the time.
Yeah.
Like, how mean is that? Like, I'm like, Mom, stop crying. And now I'm like, I cry all the time. I just cry. I get Christian on the phone. I'm sorry about this. He's like, Mom, stop crying. Anyway,
Oh, I know. I cry very easily. Well,
I think you
What are you
do
gonna
when you
do?
get older.
it gets worse.
I don't know, sure. How much
does.
worse it could get.
Yeah, it
Christian's
does.
like, are you kidding me?
I've always
Can't
cried
get any
very
worse.
easily, but it definitely does get worse
Yeah.
as you get older. Yeah.
Well, that's okay. That's a gift too. We've experienced many blessings in our
Yeah,
life.
I
I mean, there are
know.
tears of joy and
Right,
gratefulness.
that's right. You better believe it.
You know?
That's true.
And getting older, which sucks. Right?
Excuse me.
Love you, Mom.
Love you guys
Love
too. Love you.
Here, I'll sit up.
No, it's fine. No. Oh, let me move this other
Sit
one.
on your
and I'll
own
sit
couch.
here. Here, I'm gonna sit here. Since we don't need this, try not to bonk her.
So, Mom, like when you introduce Fred, you can reiterate the things that you said about him earlier to start out.
Just let her
So
do what
we
she
know.
wants. Don't give her a structure.
Gee. Now I
Yeah.
forgot what I said.
That's okay.
No, you're gonna say
I'm
new
sorry,
things.
I know.
All right. Well, it's already on, so you guys can do. Oh yeah.
So what do we do?
You
Well,
asked
hi,
lots of
here-
questions. What do you wanna know?
Here I am again with my son Fred, my second born, and he
the
gave
most
me.
difficult born.
Oh, he gave me a real tough time when he was born, I'll tell you. That cord was wrapped around his neck to only 40 beats a minute. Emergency section. And I was trying to tell them, and they gave me an anesthetic, and I could feel my chest. I couldn't breathe. My arms were going numb, and I was trying to call their attention. And the only thing I could left to do, and here I had a 9-month-old baby at home, Lisa, and it was like, this is true. I think I've told you this. My whole life flashed in front of me. You know how they say your life flashes in front of you when you die? All of a sudden, I saw myself in kindergarten, first grade, and I said, oh, dear God, no, please. I cannot die. I have my daughter Lisa home. Who's going to raise her and take care of her? Please don't let me die. So the only thing I could do next was just move my head like this, back and forth. So they finally took a pin and started at my waist, and I never felt the pin till it got up there. And then they started shooting all these orders, right? Next thing I know, they stuck a needle in my arm, and I went to sleep. And when I woke up, I was crying, and I said to your father, they tried to kill me. They tried to kill me. So basically what happened is when they injected the anesthetic in my spinal cord, I had a contraction, and instead of just going down my spinal cord, it also went up it, and that's why I started becoming paralyzed. And so then I ended up where my intestines were paralyzed after, had to have the Miller-Abbott tube put down my nose, and that goes all the way through your small intestines to your,
And you were constipated
Love-
ever since.
yes, right. So anyway, I really had a tough time with him, but he turned out okay. Look at how handsome he
Okay.
is.
I'm okay, thanks. So then you got pregnant with Renee. So then you have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn. What was that? And Dad was traveling a lot.
Oh my
So
God.
what was that like with 3 little kids?
It was
Probably active.
It was tough. He would leave, as I had said earlier, on a Monday morning, come home late Wednesday night, leave Thursday morning, come home late Friday night. Saturday night, I got the car. By the way, I was in the house with him with no car, so I couldn't go anywhere. And then Saturday, I would go grocery shopping and do my errands, whatever I had to do, and he would fertilize the lawn and cut it and all that, and then he'd
With his
leave.
mask on because he had allergies.
Yeah, right. That's right. Oh my God, he used to have the towel flung over his shoulder. But anyway, we did that for a year and a half, and then I was going to have a nervous breakdown, and I told him, I'm leaving. You can take care of the kids. I'm going. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm leaving. And that's when I kind of put an end to that, and we ended up, well, we thought we were going to move to Boston, but we went to New Jersey.
So how did you view us kids? Like, because we're all very different personalities. What was your perspective on each one of us when we were young?
Well, Lisa definitely was the head caretaker. She was the second mother of the
Firstborn.
house. And you and Renee were always the two who always played together, did everything together, and Lisa was there sometimes playing with you, but lots of times watching over you, making sure you didn't get hurt. Or if you did something wrong, she would let me know. And so that's how it was. But you were all good kids. You were not, colicky. You were not disobedient. When I asked you to do something, you would do it.
What about because our personalities, we come in with these personalities, so then they get accentuated. Our personality characteristics come out even more as we get older. How would you describe each one of us from a mother's perspective? Like raising us, not necessarily that you loved us, but
wow, that's a good one. How do I describe each of your personalities right now?
yeah. Like, what were the main dominant traits?
When we were little or now?
Well, as we grew up, because you have your same personality all the way through.
Well, I always considered Lisa the caretaker. She was always the one that was very dependable. I could depend on her. Very loving, very nurturing, very caring. She was always there looking out for you too. I mean, really, that's why she's been such a wonderful mother.
She
to
must not have
Christian.
been that good because we were doing all kinds of stuff.
Well, she wasn't with you 24
I know,
hours
I
a
got
day.
it.
Yeah, right. That's what the problem was, right? And how about you? You're an independent thinker. I never realized just how independent. And you had some strong qualities about you because you went through your first 4 years of college working your way through, and I didn't even know it. I didn't even know it, so it can't be you ever complained about it, because I would have said, what are you talking about? I thought your tuition was being paid by us. So, I mean, that says a lot for you. I think that having two sisters, I never really saw you looking out for them. You more or less played with Renee a lot, and it's like you tolerated Lisa trying to take care of you. But you're a very smart individual, and when you decide that you're going to do something, you put your whole heart into it 100%, and you give it your all. And you're very generous, I know you've treated a lot of people that couldn't pay you, you didn't care. You do a lot for other people too, that you help in many, many ways, and it makes me very proud of you.
Thanks, Mom.
You live a kind of, you all live a great lifestyle, but you also are all very generous in helping people out when people need help.
You were a great example. What about Renee?
What did I say about you before, Renee?
Just say whatever it is now. It doesn't have to be the same
No,
thing.
I told Renee she was the most challenging for me because she was the most independent thinker and she wanted to do her things her way. And I think she's made a lot of decisions in life that I thought were so off the wall and not good for her, and they all turned out to be the right decisions that she made at that time. And so, I feel that I've learned a lot from her in many ways, that's for sure. And we all go through lives, and you all have. You've all been through times in your lives where you made some bad decisions and you had to pay the consequences, but I think you all learned from them. So to me, that's the most important thing, is to learn from past mistakes and not do them over again. And sometimes it's very hard to do, I realize. Depends on the circumstances and the personalities involved.
So, based on your upbringing, what do you think? How did your upbringing shape you, and what do you think your innate qualities are that you came into this world with? And how did your upbringing did it have any effect or shape those?
Well, I had mentioned previously, I grew up in a very small town. I think I lived a very sheltered life. I had a wonderful childhood with 5 uncles and 3 aunts, and with my grandparents. We were all very loving and nurturing. I have never really heard my mother or my father talk negatively about anybody or any different races or any other different religions. They just never said anything like it. So I never heard any biased comments from them. My mother set a very good example for me of doing things for people and helping people out and just being kind and generous. And, I recall one time Aunt Marie was criticizing me because she watched me write out a check for the Sunday collection. And she says, "Why are you giving that much? You can't afford that much." And I said, "Yes, I can." And I said, "Because that's what you need to do. You need to share what you have." And I got that from my mother and father. They didn't have very much money. They never missed that collection or that second collection. They always gave. And so I believe I'm the way that I am mainly because of those first 5 to 7 years in my I know I just finished Oprah's book. It is so true. It's not, why do you behave this way? It's what happened to you. And we were talking about that today with dead bodies, why I react to dead bodies the way I do, okay? So, anyway, where was I headed?
Oh, I was just wondering how that shaped you, and what innate qualities do you have that you think you came into this world with that God gave you?
I guess I need to have you define innate.
Inborn, God-given.
Oh, okay. It's going to sound
Just spit it out. It's
self-righteous.
okay. No, it's not. You're supposed to compliment yours. Hey, you have great qualities. Just tell us what they are.
I think sense of humor, kind heart, compassion for people, also empathy for people, and sympathy for people, but knowing what to use on whom. I think makes a difference too.
So I think they asked this question, what do you feel is your most heartfelt, most meaningful thing that you've done in this life?
Becoming a mother and a grandmother.
So that means the most.
Well, no, the first would be in keeping my faith and staying close to the Lord, trying to live my life that I could spend eternity in heaven.
You think you've done that
In
well?
any time in trouble, always asking, what would God say and what would God do in these circumstances? And believe me, especially when I was going through between, the divorce with your father and with Bill Manning, boy, I really needed that prayer to help me out, and it did, because I have no regrets about anything
So you
that
think
I
you
did.
fulfilled that very well?
About spending eternity in heaven.
No, yeah, about being the best you can be and living
Yes.
God's will.
Absolutely.
You feel very confident about that.
I feel very good about that. Yeah, I do.
All right. So that was the first thing. What's the next thing? So looking at that, that's the thing you're most fulfilled with. And what would be the next thing?
Oh, having my children, having 3 beautiful, successful children. Although the most important thing is having unconditional love between us all. And in my 2 grandsons, my family, means a lot to me. A lot to me. And I think my daughters have done an incredible job with their 2 sons. And I think you have had your challenges for sure. And with, with your son Chase, and pretty rough circumstances to deal with, but boy, you got on there and you didn't lose your head over it.
So what else? As you reflect back through 84
Yeah.
years, and you look back at your life, what else stands out? What's the biggest, one of the biggest impressions?
I think the way I am today has a lot to do with my nursing career, because I always felt that kept me very close to God. And it made me appreciate good health and not take things for granted. Unfortunately, I didn't give you guys enough sympathy when you got hurt, because anytime you got hurt, well, you told me as an adult. Do you remember I asked you once if there's anything that I did that annoyed you as your mother, what was it? And you said, well, every time we got hurt, you'd fix something, you'd say, don't worry about it, it's not life-threatening.
I don't ever remember saying that.
Yeah, well, you did. But that was because as a nurse I assessed things, and I was grateful
Mom,
that
that was
nothing
when I was
happened
5
to you.
years old and I smacked my head on the pole of the swing.
Whatever.
And I was bleeding everywhere, and they got no sympathy. That was that one. But
Oh,
after
what?
that,
And then there's the story about your broken collarbone when she was in Tahoe.
Oh, Nano was watching you and you fell off your skateboard?
well,
Oh,
she wasn't home, so I had to wait overnight.
I know. Well, I came home in the middle of the night, but we waited till the morning, but I didn't realize you had a broken collarbone. I felt kind of bad about that. But again, it wasn't life-threatening, so,
No, I wasn't stressed about that.
Yeah.
No, that's not a big deal.
No, right.
What are your fondest memories of Mom? What are the qualities that you appreciate about Mom?
I would say that we could always talk to Mom.
Yeah.
That was it. You could always talk to her. You were always very compassionate. I mean, whether you agreed or not, we knew that you, and with Dad, we couldn't talk to Dad the same, obviously, but we knew we were loved unconditionally by both of you. But you would talk to us. Dad wouldn't talk to us.
Anything else? Did you like the food I cooked?
Well, obviously, Mom. I mean, yeah.
Well, that's what we've
I
been
mean,
talking about the last 4 days here. It's been one dish after another.
Yeah, well, you sacrificed yourself for family, and that's your message. Family was the most important, one of the most rewarding things. and loyalty was a big thing. So I mean, in our culture, especially in your time frame, you get married and you don't get divorced. And you hung in there because you wanted to keep the family unit together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Biggest reasons.
Yeah.
So would you say that that's one? What's the thing that you're? What's something that you've learned from Grandma that you're most appreciative of?
I would probably say unconditional love. I mean, we knew you loved us unconditionally.
No matter what you did, huh?
Yeah, well, our whole family was always very supportive no matter what we went through. And I knew Dad loved us too. Dad had problems managing himself, but I knew he loved us.
Mm-hmm.
I never once doubted Dad's love for us. He just had challenges managing himself.
Mm-hmm.
So we got it.
What are one of your happiest memories growing up in the family?
Getting my green Schwinn bike with the silver seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was always playful and always fairly joyful, but we moved around a lot. So there was also, we had joy with our friends, but there was also pain. I mean, we never started a grade and finished the same grade in the same school, so it was constantly loving people and leaving them. So, but I knew we were grounded in our family. So, and that was really it. We were grounded. I would say one of the most things I'm most grateful for is we grew up, we practiced religion on Sundays, but we grew up with a relationship with God in the house. And so that was the grounding.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that's probably the number one thing, and then unconditional love. But we prayed for everything. It's just what we did, right? We just prayed for everything.
And you still do.
Yeah, I would say that a lot. I would say I talk to God a lot.
I know. Talk to him every day.
Yeah, so I'd probably say that's probably the most valuable thing. I didn't buy into religion. I was continually asking you questions that you didn't have the answer for. Religiously, like for the Bible,
Still
the
don't.
answers. Yeah, the answers were like, well, because it's in the Bible. Well,
Yeah, right.
I got a whole talk tonight that talks about that. So,
Yeah, which Bible are you talking about? And how come there's Bibles that were written by the women in Jesus' life and his ministry, but we never hear about them.
no.
I know, because, the guys wearing the black long skirts don't want women to have any power in the Catholic Church.
So now that you're 84, what are you looking forward to?
Well, what am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to trying to have a life with more peace of mind and to find some joy in every day. And I know I'm grateful every day. There's always things every day for me to be grateful for. Just waking up in the morning, the first thing I say is thank you, Jesus, for a good night's sleep. I'm grateful to be awake again.
Yeah, you woke yourself up snoring. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know, but due to, some things that maybe were in my control, I don't know, with this hip condition, whatever, but as we get older, we start developing things, and I'm trying not to look back at what I was doing even 5 years ago, and just be grateful for what I can do now. I mean, I'm glad I can get on the floor and do my stretching exercises and get up by myself and still go grocery shopping by myself and go to church if I want to go by myself or whatever. But I think we're just living in a whole new different world now. And I don't know whether we're ever going to have a normal world again like we had before. I really don't know. I think everything is pretty screwed up and crazy right now. I just pray daily for the safety of my family, and I always say for their physical and mental health, and for their safety.
So, last question, and that is, because this tape will probably be around for a while, and there will be people watching this in generations that aren't here yet, that you may not be with you in person. What would you like to say to them?
Oh, live your life to your fullest, but with dignity and kindness and compassion and joy and laughter. But above all, be sure that you have God in your life and make Him the priority of your life.
And eat good Italian food.
Pardon me?
And eat good Italian food.
And eat good Italian food. Yes, absolutely.
Keep the
I'm sure you.
recipes rolling.
I will keep the recipes going from generation to generation. And all I can say for me is eating pasta and pizza at the same meal is like dying and probably going to heaven.
So we know what your last meal will be.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Well, yeah, that's very true. I did have a dream with the Blessed Mother, and she took me up to heaven, and we were walking through a restaurant, and I tried to talk to this chef that was walking towards me, but he was like a shadow. He just walked through me. And
you were trying to order a pizza?
well, I went, and the Blessed Mother was standing at the end of a table, and I said, "Dear Blessed Mother, are there any good Italian restaurants up here?" And she looked at me and she laughed and she said, "Rosemary, you
You're
don't
in one.
need food where you are."
Like,
And that's when I woke up.
Yeah.
Was that a nightmare?
Was that a nightmare? Right? Isn't that something else? I swear to God.
Yeah.
She laughed. "Rosemary, you don't need food where you are now." And I think of that often. I think, but that's a shame. They've got beautiful music, all those angels singing, beautiful
Might
flowers.
as well enjoy it with a pizza.
Roads,
Exactly.
roads paved with gold, and there's no food up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't. That's unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
Lord.
I don't think it's true. I think your
Yeah.
mind was playing games on you.
Yeah, she
You
was
know-
playing a joke.
Yeah,
Oh.
it was a joke. Mary was joking.
Mary
around
was
with you.
joking around with me.
She's just joking.
Okay.
Yeah.
You-
All right, cool.
I love you.
Thank you very much. Love you too, Mama.
Oh, take care.
Ah.